So welcome back everyone, Mike here. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Pennsylvania. The sun's shining, the wind's blowing, all good news because it's starting to dry things up a little bit. We had a lot of rain over the last couple days. I need to do some mowing is what I need to do. It's getting kind of out of control actually, but it's still pretty wet right now, so I decided to come down here to the Renewable Energy Processing Center, cut up some firewood and split it, because I need to get this area opened up a little bit. I'm going to be bringing a whole bunch of firewood poles from over at the neighbor's place down at the pond. I got a big pile of logs down there, so we have a lot of wood to cut and split. That won't even be for this year, it'll be for the following year. But today I want to share a couple things that I've actually figured out. One on my own and one that somebody told me about. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I like to cut my firewood all the same length. I use the Mingo marker, sometimes I use the AccuMark, and sometimes I just use a tape measure and sidewalk chalk. And so everyone says, which do you like better? Well, there's no real good answer, and I'll explain why. So like I said, at the beginning of this video, I was using the AccuMark. Very easy to use. Magnetic mount right onto your bar. Put it on the end of the log, you mark it, move on, mark it. The only disadvantage of the AccuMark is you have to take it off before you make your cut all the way through the log. But that's really no big deal because you can mark them so quick, you save time doing that. And it's very accurate, works really well. The only downside to the AccuMark is when you're out in the woods and you have trees that are all crooked and you're going like this, it's kind of awkward to use, for me at least. But here at the the Renewable Energy Processing Center, the AccuMark works very well. So I think this would be my first choice when working out of a log pile like this. On a side note, now keep in mind this is coming from my unprofessional opinion, Cutting firewood out of a pile of logs like this is one of the most dangerous things you can do with a chainsaw. And the reason is, this is a perfect setup for kickback. I kind of like to roll my logs out, get them away from the other ones a little bit. And you know, a lot of guys, you're okay, you can cut down through here. But if that tip of that bar hits out that next log while you're down into this one, boom, that saw is going to kick up. So when you're cutting out of a log pile, you got to be very careful. And you know, just use a log cant or your log ox or whatever. Roll them out, give yourself a little bit of room like this so you don't have to worry about hitting this right here and having this bar kick up. Now the Mingo marker, you've seen this in several videos before. I really like the Mingo marker, especially when I'm out in the woods. You know, you cut down a big tall dead tree, start at one end of that tree, run down the log, it marks it every 16 inches, it works out really well. But for down here in this pile of logs like this, I think I do prefer the AccuMark. The Mingo marker is just a little bit, I wouldn't say awkward, but when you start at the end of a log, sometimes you can be off a little bit. You know, when you're doing a whole tree, it doesn't matter. You just keep going the whole way. But when you have 20 or 30 logs down here, I just would prefer to use the AccuMark, I think, on this shorter stuff. But I will always have a Mingo marker for when I'm out in the woods. And lastly, if all else fails, I always have a tape measure and sidewalk chalk to mark my firewood. Really nice for, you know, screwed up pieces that are all crooked and bent up and things like that. Always keep this with me. This is a piece of cherry that I marked with the AccuMark. It's at 16 1/4 inches. That's pretty accurate. All right, now I'm going to split up these few pieces laying here before I cut any more. Kind of like to keep the work area clean so I'm not, you know, tripping over things. And then I want to tell you a little tip that Chris Wolfe gave me as far as running this splitter that I may like. I can't believe I didn't think of it before, but I will try that out here in a little bit. So with this Wolfe Ridge, I'm always standing on this side with the log lift on the other side, and it works really well that way, especially when you have somebody helping you like Melissa, because you're standing on this side. She just keeps loading them on the log lift. If they're big heavy ones, she rolls them over to it, and I always stay on this side. Well, Chris Wolfe, he mentioned the other day in the comments, you know, you can always stand on the log lift, lower it all the way down to the ground, and work it that way as well. And I actually never even thought of doing that. So if you were to be like, say you had a bucket, you know, in your tractor loaded with firewood, you could pull it right next to you on this side right here, stand on the log lift, and split a bunch of small ones. I just have a few small maple rounds here. I switched to the 4-way wedge for those. But yeah, what I'm thinking, you come in here like with a bucket on your tractor, or that little dump trailer loaded up with rounds. You could stand right there. That should work out really well. I'm going to try it out. So that works really well. I never would have thought of that unless Chris would have mentioned that. You know, you just get comfortable in your spot there. It works really well. You don't even think of other ways to do it. But yeah, you can run that splitter from both sides. Like I said, I think it would work great if you had a bucket full of rounds in your bucket of your tractor. If you had a dump trailer beside you, all you'd be doing is this. Even a big stack there behind you. If you're working by yourself, you could run it that way. And the other thing I learned today, the AccuMark works really well for when you're working in a log pile like I was right here. I like the Mingo marker for out in the woods with big long, you know, when I drop big dead tall trees, works really good there. And I always have my tape measure and sidewalk chalk. Oh, and a couple things I want to mention before I forget. The channel is doing fantastic, and we owe all that to you. The last 30 days, we're almost at 2 million views for the last 30 days, which is just huge for a channel of our size. We're really thankful for that. We appreciate everybody that watches. And if you care to, check out our Facebook page, Outdoors with the Morgans, or Instagram. Melissa's very active on that. She runs all that stuff while I'm at work during the day, and we both work on the YouTube stuff in the evenings and the weekends. That's how this all kind of works out. But anyway, I gotta head up to the house and start getting ready to go to this wedding today. It's a really nice day. I was thinking of texting them and being like, hey, you maybe move this, you know, to a little later this evening. I got a bunch of grass to cut, but I didn't think it'd be a good idea. But anyway, like I always say, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like button, click subscribe, and share them with your friends. Thanks.